Let's imagine a scientist named Maria. She has spent her entire life in a black and white laboratory studying the neurophysiology of the color red. Now, she knows this color so well that she can recall all the information associated with it from memory. She knows the wavelengths of all colors, the psychology of red, how neurons transmit signals from the retina to the brain, and what happens in the brain itself during this process. She understands the hormonal, electrical, and mechanical changes that occur in the body and the surrounding world when perceiving red. In short, Maria knows everything about the color red. But what will happen if Maria sees the color red in real life? Will she learn something new? Will there be some kind of special knowledge in this experience that cannot be reduced to what she studied in the black and white room? This thought experiment is known in philosophy as Mary's room, and will leave the answer to philosophers. However, I want to turn the question completely around. What if Maria had seen the color red all her life, and then started documenting and systematizing her observations about it? Would she come to understand it better? Would she gain new insights? Would her experience of red be enriched with a deeper understanding? I believe it would. For example, researcher Guy Deutscher, the author of the book Through the Language Glass, Why the World Looks Different in Other Languages, conducted an extraordinary experiment. He raised his daughter, trying never to draw attention to the color of the sky. Then, one day, he asked her what color she saw when she looked up. Alma, his daughter, eventually managed to assign it the color blue, but it took some effort. The ancient Greeks also lacked a word for the color blue. Homer described the sea as the color of dark wine, and apparently, he meant it quite seriously. In his works, other colors are mentioned hundreds of times, but blue is not mentioned even once. They simply didn't have the concept for it. Did the Greeks see the sea differently than we do? Scientist Jules Davidoff decided to investigate this by visiting the Himba tribe. For these indigenous people, the words for blue and green are the same. Now, here's a puzzle. Which rectangle is different from the others? It's obvious to us, but the Himba tribe members identified it much more slowly. They had to scrutinize each rectangle longer because they didn't have a specific word to distinguish blue from green. This experiment was repeated multiple times, including with Russian speakers. You see, in the Russian language, there is a specific word for light blue, goluboy. And it turns out that Russian speakers are better at distinguishing shades of blue than English speakers. The people of Altai also distinguish certain shades better than the Chinese, because the Altai language has more categories for color. In short, language influences how we see colors, understand space, and even how we represent objects. Therefore, it's only a slight exaggeration to say that our description of the world is almost as important as the world itself. In some cases, despite constantly interacting with something, it remains completely inaccessible to us. Take our own experiences, for example. Like the pygmies, for whom the sky and grass appear the same color, we are often unable to distinguish between anger directed at others and anger directed at ourselves. We don't understand the motivations behind our actions, what emotions we are experiencing, where we are making mistakes, and what makes our lives better. We don't even attempt to examine the subtleties of our own moods. We don't know ourselves. That's why, for the past year, I've been writing something down in my journal almost every day. To truly see yourself, you need to describe yourself. And this is backed by science. By describing your experiences and events, you create a coherent narrative about yourself. You begin to understand who you are, how you live, and what you want. Your confidence grows, and your productivity increases. Uncontrolled emotions gradually transform into well-defined, understandable statements, and previously hidden areas of your inner world are illuminated by a bright light. Imagine that you had never seen your reflection before, and then you looked into a mirror. At that moment, something truly extraordinary happens. You feel as if you're peeking behind the scenes. The same thing happens with a journal. It's a mirror for your inner world. You begin to see things you never even knew existed. As a result, your stress levels decrease, which is reflected in brain activity and lower stress hormone levels. You rid yourself of anxious thoughts, depressive symptoms, and even cope with psychological traumas faster. It's hard to believe, but simply writing down your life on paper can help heal physical injuries faster and reduce symptoms of asthma, arthritis, and even cancer. It improves blood pressure, lung function, liver health, and the immune system. Yes, this sounds like science fiction, but it's actually science fact. Personally, I'm most interested in the impact on productivity and cognitive abilities, which also improve. For example, in a 2001 study, researchers had participants keep a journal for a week and then tested their working memory. It turned out to have improved. In other words, it functioned better. This is confirmed in other studies as well. And it's not surprising. Our minds are constantly cluttered with unprocessed thoughts. When we offload them onto paper, our brains are freed up. Your memory no longer has to hold onto countless facts, feelings, events, plans, and emotions. They are now on paper, and you can focus on more important things. That's why people who keep a journal improve their grades, miss work less often, and recover from difficult life situations faster. In this context, it's not surprising that Leonardo da Vinci, Albert Einstein, Mark Twain, Marie Curie, Winston Churchill, Benjamin Franklin, Charles Darwin, and countless other great people kept journals. It is the most powerful practice of self-discovery I know. Okay, so how do you keep a journal? Ideally, you should take a pen and paper every day and write something for 15 minutes. The more emotionally vivid, deep, and detailed you describe your experience and insights from it, the better. However, we both know that maintaining this habit for a long time is challenging. So I'll say this. A good journal is the one you actually keep. For example, I find it convenient to type on a computer because I can type quickly. Writing by hand slows me down. I don't write every day, and I don't force myself to express emotions, but I strive to do so. Sometimes my journal entries are 100 words long. Sometimes they're 10,000. Sometimes I have conversations with it. Sometimes I use it to plan my schedule. And when I'm too lazy to type, I'll even record my voice. Sometimes I use complex sentences with beautiful linguistic flourishes, and other times my journal reads like a financial report. The most important thing is to turn your inner world inside out and lay it out before you. That's how I discover myself. I hope it works for you too. Wishing you happiness and good luck.